Lily's Big Day by Kevin Henkes. Lily's Big Day. One day, Lily's teacher, Mr. Slinger, announced to the class that he was going to marry Miss Shotwell, the school nurse. Lily's heart leaped. She had always wanted to be a flower girl. "It will be the biggest day of my life," said Mr. Slinger. "Mine too," whispered Lily. At home in her room, Lily practiced being a flower girl. First, she changed into something more appropriate. Then she held her head high and smiled brightly and raised her eyebrows and turned her head from side to side and carried her hands proudly in front of her and hummed, "Here comes the bride," and walked the length of her room very, very slowly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. "It will be the biggest day of my life," said Lily. "Who are you pretending to be tonight?" asked Lily's mother at dinner. "I'm not pretending," said Lily. "I'm a flower girl." "Who's getting married?" asked her father. "Mr. Slinger," said Lily. "Really?" said her mother. "Really?" said her father. "Really," said Lily. "He's going to marry Miss Shotwell. He told us today, and I'm going to be the flower girl." "You are?" said her father. "Did Mr. Slinger ask you?" said her mother. "Not yet," said Lily. At bedtime, Lily's mother said, "Lily, there are so many students in your class. Mr. Slinger couldn't possibly pick just one to be a flower girl." Her father said, "It wouldn't be fair. He probably has a niece," said her mother. "Maybe Aunt Mona will get married someday," said her father. "Do you understand what we're trying to say?" asked her mother. Lily nodded. "Are you sure?" asked her father. Lily nodded again. After her parents left her room, Lily said, "I understand that I'm going to be a flower girl." The next day at school, during sharing time, Lily said, "I've always wanted to be a flower girl, even more than a surgeon or a diva or a hairdresser." The following afternoon, when Mr. Slinger had recess duty, Lily picked a handful of weeds at the edge of the playground. She carried the weeds proudly in front of her and walked very, very slowly past Mr. Slinger until the bell rang. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. In the morning after that, Lily went to the light bulb lab at the back of the classroom. She drew a self-portrait. It says, "Me, Lily, the world's best and most famous flower girl." And she's smart, beautiful, better than the bride, #1. And here she is saying, "This is the best drawing I've ever done in my entire complete life." Mr. Slinger called Lily up to his desk during quiet reading time. "Lily," he said, "I can tell that you want to be a flower girl, but unfortunately, my niece, Ginger, is going to be the flower girl at my wedding." Lily's heart sank. "But," said Mr. Slinger, "I also want you to know that everyone in the class will be invited to the wedding. We can all dance together at the reception. It'll be fun." Lily's stomach hurt. "This seems really important to you," said Mr. Slinger. Lily's cheeks turned pink. "You know," said Mr. Slinger, "I was just thinking that you might like to be Ginger's assistant. You could stand with her and keep her company until she has to walk down the aisle. You could make sure her dress isn't crooked and that she holds her flowers properly." Lily considered this. "You could remind her to walk slowly," said Mr. Slinger. Lily considered some more. "You could wear a corsage," said Mr. Slinger. Oh, all right," said Lily, "if you really need me so much." Lily tried to get excited about being Ginger's assistant. She's saying, now don't forget to pay. Flower girl, advice, $1. Weddings wouldn't even exist without flower girl assistants, she told her baby brother Julius. She says, you're not listening. I have a special responsibility, she told her parents. When her Grammy took her shopping for a new dress for the wedding, Lily told the clerk, a flower girl assistant is very important and glamorous. And the store clerk is saying, she's adorable. And Grammy says, in small doses. But when it really sank in that she would not be walking down the aisle carrying a bouquet with everyone watching, Lily pretended that her teddy bear was Mr. Slinger. She made him sit in the uncooperative chair. You can just stay there forever, she said. As the wedding drew near, Mr. Slinger counted down the days on the chalkboard. 1 day closer to the biggest day of my life, he would say. Ugh, 1 day closer to the biggest day of Ginger's life, Lily would whisper. And this person saying, I'm never getting married. Here's Lily. And still, at home in her room, Lily practiced. She held her head high and smiled brightly and raised her eyebrows and turned her head from side to side and carried her hands proudly in front of her and hummed, Here Comes the Bride, and walked the length of her room very, very slowly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So here she is, she's sad and upset that she doesn't get to be the flower girl, but even though she's upset, look, it says, Lily practiced. If you noticed, these words are a little darker and bolder and even slightly larger than all the other words on the page. I wonder what Kevin Henkes is trying to communicate here. She's practicing and practicing, even though she's upset that she doesn't get to be the flower girl, only the flower girl's assistant. The day of the wedding finally arrived. Lily hoped and hoped that Ginger would have pink eye or a bad fever or not show up. But she was there, and she was all ready. Her dress was straight, and she held her flowers properly. There's Mr. Slinger saying, this is my niece. Lily does not look happy. Are you sure you want to do this? Said Lily. Yes, said Ginger. Are you sure you're sure? Yes. Are you really sure you're sure? Lily hoped and hoped that Ginger would change her mind, but she didn't. It was time for the ceremony to begin. The music swelled. Everyone stood. The moment came for Ginger to walk down the aisle. Ginger didn't move. Mr. Slinger motioned her forward. Go, said Lily. Look at Mr. Slinger. He looks so nervous he's sweating. And all the people look so worried. Ginger was frozen. Now, said Lily. Ginger was still as a stone. You can do it, said Lily. But Ginger couldn't. Everyone waited and waited and waited. No one knew what to do, except Lily. I wonder why she knows what to do. Lily scooped up Ginger and said, here we go. Then Lily walked very, very slowly down the aisle. She held her head high, she smiled brightly, and raised her eyebrows, and turned her head from side to side, and carried Ginger proudly in front of her. When she reached Mr. Slinger, everyone clapped. I knew this would be the biggest day of my life, said Lily. Lily was so excited she barely noticed the rest of the ceremony. The reception was great fun. After the cake was served, Lily coached Ginger for the next time that she would be a flower girl. I won't be with you at every wedding, said Lily. I won't be able to save you every time. Together they walked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, very, very slowly. Soon they were dancing. There's Lily saying, keep watching, keep watching. And soon after that, they were joined by Chester, Wilson, Victor, Julius, Mr. Slinger, Miss Shotwell, and many others. It's interpretive dance, said Mr. Slinger. We're doing the Flower Girl, said Lily. Lily's family stayed at the reception until Lily was perfectly exhausted. But there's something I have to do before we go, said Lily. She needed to find Ginger one last time. And when she did, she said, Ginger, when I get married, you can be my flower girl.